Today's guest is Chris Caputo, a straight-talking Texan and the owner of CCI Commercial Construction. Chris built his business from the ground up and wears the GC title with pride. He's someone who truly lives and breathes construction, very passionate about the craft, the people, and making sure that the next generation get into the industry and get qualified. No fluff, no nonsense, just real talk from someone who's been there and built it. Chris, thanks for joining us on the CPC. Delighted to have you on. So, thought we'd just jump straight in. Take it from the top. What kind of led you to jump into construction, and how did CCI come to life?
Well, getting into construction was a little weird. It was younger days. I was doing some stunt work and, pretty much pursuing any kind of job that I really wanted to do, And after the son was born, I was like, I'm going to have to calm that down a little bit, and decided to go join a framing crew doing residential construction. So I would go in there and ride my motorcycle over to the job site, and they would teach me how to swing a hammer and do all that stuff. And it is Texas, and they spoke perfect English, the framing crew. They just wouldn't speak it to me. So they had me learn Spanish over the next 2 years of me being with the crew until I learned pretty good construction Spanish, is what we call it.
That's brilliant.
To hold this conversation. But I did that for a couple of years. I worked my way up just from framing houses to cutting the pitches and stuff on the roof and to running the crews. And then after 3 years, I decided, hey, let's get out of this residential thing and move into commercial.
Perfect. Well, look, I mean, you're known for your blend of high standards and humor. What was that? Was that your kind of leadership intention from day one, or did that evolve as the company grew?
Well, it took still a while for me to get all the way to CCI. From when I made the jump over to commercial construction, I had to learn that aspect of it. Now, going from residential to commercial, it was just been checked. And worked my way up from crew leader, foreman, superintendent to general superintendent, and then spending the next 25 years as a superintendent in the commercial industry. Then led me to CCI.
You built a very strong presence in the DFW area. Was there a particular kind of early project that you got involved with, or a particular client that kind of helped shape that path?
No, not really. I mean, just trudging along as a superintendent for so many years, you just did so many projects, and then you kind of find out what works, what doesn't work, what clients like, what they don't like. And then you kind of develop your own idea of how you would run a company. Mind you, I was working for somebody for this entire time, and as long as you're doing the best of, I've always tried to be the best at whatever I was doing. So if I was a superintendent, I was going to be the top tier superintendent, and just figuring out what all the people that you're working for and all the different clients you're working for, the different type of personalities, the things that work and how they like their hand held and how they like their information and stuff. If you want to incorporate all the stuff you've learned over all those years of working for somebody and implement it into what I'm doing now, is what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Was there a kind of turning point in your career where you kind of, in your early stages of CCI, or even your early days in construction, where you thought to yourself, this is going to work, this is going to be what I'm going to do for the kind of remainder of my time?
Yeah, as soon as I went over from residential to commercial, even when I was at residential, I guess it didn't take very long. I didn't even know how to swing a hammer when I started framing those houses. And then after a while, I was picking up pencils of people dropping that stuff. Then they let me read tape measures and started using skill saws and this and that. And then it wasn't too far along into it, say 6 months to a year, that I realized that I have a skill and a trade now that not a lot of people have. Mm-hmm. A lot of people they don't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this. And so I'll never go hungry. I can always go and build a fence or build somebody's dock or deck or do something. I can work with something. I have a skill as a carpenter now. And
Yeah.
then I started working on my own house, doing things, putting in tile, building this, doing that, and realized, hey, I can do it all. And just off of those little carpentry skills that I developed way back then when I was, 20 years old, that I always knew from that point on. And just looking at the way Texas was booming and all the buildings and stuff going up around you, this and that, we're going to be working forever. There's no AI that can replace us.
Yeah.
There's always, and I tell my people this all the time, looking at it, when people are doing great and they're wanting to build, you're going to be working. When people aren't doing good and they need to downsize, they still need construction. You're going to be working. You're always going to be working. We worked all the way through COVID, and that's just the way it is. And I noticed that on early on that
Yeah.
this is going to be what's going to provide for me and my family forever.
And how have you seen the kind of Texas market change? Obviously, look, you've obviously been there for a while, and Texas as a state has, shifted its economic power quite heavily over the last sort of 50 years as such. But in the last 25 years, it's become a real powerhouse in its own right anyway. How have you seen the kind of landscaping construction shift specifically in Texas?
Well, when I was working for somebody else, say back in 2008, and I was a superintendent, I got to witness the big boom of everything. Right, everything was blowing up. There was just jobs coming in the door, and I got kind of spoiled to that. I noticed our estimators were bidding a job, and 2 days later they were getting released on something, and then we were starting it a few days after that. It's nothing like that anymore. Since I started this own company 7 years ago, we've just been under complete hardship. Fighting for everything that you go and get, which it helps out a lot. It helps you out how to fine tune the numbers, how to to get more competitive with things. It just helps you out in that way. We haven't seen, and we will see again, the boom. People really haven't come back to the offices, and we did a lot of interior finish out. There's not a lot of people back in their offices working, so there's not a lot of opportunity for finish out. And what is there is extremely cutthroat and competitive, especially here in Dallas. I imagine it's like that everywhere else.
Yeah.
So during COVID and during that time, I saw it coming and I started pivoting over to industrial warehouses. I noticed that there were more distribution centers coming in. So if there was not many people working and we were outsourcing everything, our distribution centers were blowing up. So they still need finish out too. They still need things that we can do. So we kind of pivoted over to that. And that's 95% of our work now versus the high end, high rise interior finish out.
Yeah, I was going to say you've obviously seen that change. So you feel like there's a lot more kind of industrial stuff like warehouse improvements, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we like it more. It's dirtier work. It's not big, beautiful stuff. It's not more expensive finishes. It's not stuff that getting imported from Italy, but it is work and it keeps all of our guys going. And people really do need it. When you got these big 500,000 square foot buildings, they need to be properly maintained, done. They need to have their own little finish out built in there, and they're putting decent finish outs in those things as well. But from the landscape to the lighting to the dock doors to all the crazy things that people don't think about when you build these buildings that need constant maintenance, we're there to help with that too, alongside of doing their build outs of the projects.
Yeah, so obviously, look, you guys at CCI, obviously, you manage quite a wide range of projects, right? You do everything from sort of ground up builds, warehouse improvements, like you say, some maintenance stuff, as well as the, interior fit out. How do you balance the precision and flexibility across the different scope of projects? Because obviously they offer, like you say, doing an industrial project, something completely different, right? To doing a high end sort of interior finish.
It's all about the people that you hire. I went, I, I used to say when I was a superintendent that I could train a monkey to be a superintendent. Well, I found out real quick after owning my own company, I can't do that. I went through numerous people. And if you have the right person in the right place that knows all these things and how to bounce that properly, that's what I finally put in place over here now. Uh, I couldn't train these people because after owning my own company, I had to have my fingers in everything from the office staff to managing to estimating, project managing to the superintendent. And I couldn't be at all those places at one time. So I had to make sure that the people that I did get hired, the quality people I got hired, knew exactly how to run all these projects and how to coordinate everything and do what we do efficiently. And that's the key, is to have it done efficiently, not go in little half cocked on anything. If I felt there was a time and place that we weren't providing the very best service that we can provide, then I would stop that.
Yeah, I mean that makes complete sense. You mentioned people there, and obviously, look, I run a recruitment company across the UK and the US, and the one thing that's fundamental is people, right? It's any lifeblood of any business is its people. Look, your website is something that celebrates a lot of personality, right? And why is celebrating individuality so important to your company culture?
Well, it's because we want it. There's the stigmata on this GC world. We're money hungry people. We're out here to do this and that, and everybody's bad, and we're change order to death. And no, these are normal people that we have working. We want to show you that they're normal people with normal lives, with normal problems, and you know, we're just like anybody else. And when we talk to our clients and our people, we let them know that as well. We we're all in the same boat here. We're trying to make a little money at the same time. We're trying to save you money, and we're doing whatever we can to make that happen.
It makes complete sense, right? I think it's the human element to it. I think there's sometimes people don't kind of appreciate that, right? And it's almost seen as numbers and time frames and materials on site, and they don't think about the human aspects of what you guys actually do.
Right, that's exactly right. Especially when it came to the high-rise interior finish out. The plans that come out and things, and you have to work around people. It means you have to work at night times and weekends. Well, my people want time off too. They want their weekends as well. They want their night times with their families. They want all that stuff too. So when you got so much of that high-rise stuff, there's so many people in the offices, and there's a lot of nighttime and weekend work there, and it's just not appealing to me anymore.
No, I can appreciate why, right? You've got to have that work-life balance, and I think certainly since COVID, we've seen that real desire and need from people to have that ability to be able to kind of shut off work and actually spend some time at home. How do you, as a leader, kind of balance that with your team? Because obviously it's very important to you, and clearly that will come across to your guys. But how do you manage that as a leader, but the expectation of your client to get projects done on time?
Well, there is a fine line in between of, yeah, we want to spend time with family, and then, hey, we want to completely work from home and do all that stuff. I've seen that shift in a lot of people. Hey, the COVID has proven we can work. No, it hasn't. It hasn't proven anything like that. We need to come. This is still a business we have to run. There's expectations that are we have of the people to get the job done. Now, if you're able to come into work as a superintendent, and I did it for many years, and you're able to run all the projects, get everything done, and you wanted to be home by 1 o'clock, go home at 1 o'clock. I don't care. That's why you have a phone. People will call you if there's a problem, and I know if there's a major problem, they'll pick up and go right back to that job site and handle it. So I kind of give everybody enough free reign to do exactly what they want to do until there's a problem. And lately, there has just not been many problems.
No, that makes complete sense, right? I think, funnily enough, I was speaking to somebody earlier about trust in people, and I think how leaders are supposed to lead, and what a good leader is and what a bad leader is. And I think one of those fundamental things is trust in people. You hire people specifically for a job, you've got to allow them to do it, right? Because otherwise, what's the point in bringing these people on board? It just doesn't make
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I
you know,
mean, I tell them all the time, if you see me all the time on your job site and I'm picking something up, I'm cleaning something up, I'm vacuuming something up, you're doing something wrong. You probably need to rethink the way you're doing it. But most of the time nowadays, I'm not visiting job sites anymore. It used to be on a daily basis. You go there, fix this, fix that. It's very taxing on me, but now, right people in the right place, I'm not having to worry about that so much. I got what I call a rock star group of people. And it's a very small group of people. It's not very big, but it's manageable for me at this point. And honestly, I don't know how these huge companies do it without sacrificing quality or anything like that. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you have hundreds of people and actually properly manage that? I don't know how.
It's tricky. I think that's one of the fundamental issues, I think, with most large businesses is, and that's why they're, a lot of them seem to be deemed soulless, right? Because it is
Yep.
just about numbers and it's about getting projects done. It's not really about the people. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of really solid GCs out there, some that we work with that have got, fantastic reputations, and they've obviously built a really, solid structure to be able to manage that and get that balance right. But, like you just said there, to manage things effectively, it's a really tricky job to kind of do. I think, something that's kind of stood out, you guys done a really large project, didn't you? It was a 40,000 square foot remodel for AVI. How did you kind of manage the team on that one? Was there anything kind of specific on that job that stood out? And was there anything that you learned on that project?
Well, quite honestly, on that one, all of my superintendents were so busy at that point. I just came out of the office and ran that one myself. And it wasn't really, I mean, like I said, 25 years of me running projects in the field, it really wasn't a big problem for me. I was able to handle that just for a couple hours a day and then come run everything else company wise inside here. So that AVI, that wasn't a big stretch or a problem for me at all.
That's good. I mean, that's, like you say, going back to having the right people in the team around you.
Yeah.
Look, something that's obviously, construction's very well known for how stressful it gets, the burnout, etc. We sadly see both here and in the States that, sadly there's a lot of men that kill themselves due to the burnout and whatnot around it.
Yeah.
How do you keep, things really kind of fun and grounded in the business to ensure that, the team are constantly kind of engaged and not necessarily getting close to that burnout?
Well, like I said, for me on the stress level, before I started construction, my previous life, I did stunt work. And if something went wrong in the stunt work, you get hurt seriously or you die. That's just the only two options that you got there. So my mindset I took from that coming over to construction, if you have a bad day here, you lose a little money. I mean, that's it. I mean, yeah, you may get a hammer to the finger or something like that and get something smashed. But other than that, the stress level is not very bad. Everybody's going to have a bad day. You will lose a little bit of money. You will make some clients upset at one point for something stupid that's beyond your control most of the time, but you fix it. And like I said, my folks are all the same way. We know what we need to let just run off the back and not worry about it. We know how to compartmentalize and shake off the bad days when we go home to the families. We know how to do all that. And we sit here in every Tuesday staff meeting, and not only do we talk about work, but we talk about life and what's going on in there too. So we all keep each other grounded.
That's great. That's something that's really impressive, because I think, again, I've been doing this job for nearly 16 years or whatever it is now, speaking to construction professionals. And one of the kind of unspoken sort of stories or whatnot around it is that, this macho bravado of men on site specifically, they don't necessarily want to talk about their feelings. And that's something that kind of leads to that buildup of attention and testosterone and, and I guess they're men feeling like they're not good enough and they're not able to provide for the family, et cetera, et cetera. That's great. Do you see that have a kind of real impact on your team when you're kind of sitting there unburdening each other?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I would think, yeah, of course it does. So I got a little therapy sessions and we don't have to really pay for therapy, but we have, don't get me wrong, we have a mentality around here of suck it up and get it done kind of thing because nobody else is going to do it. I mean, understand as a GC, we're the construction managers. Our people are the ones that have to solve all the hard problems that the subcontractors, owners, tenants, representatives, they can't solve. And then when I finally get a phone call, it means that one of my guys that solve hard problems can't solve. So that's when it comes to me, and then I got to solve that problem. That's the way it works here. They're problem solvers.
It's the way the cookie crumbles, right? But that kind of leads me into my next question. What's something that for you specifically about running a construction firm that most people wouldn't expect?
Oh, I hate it. I would love to be back in the field working for somebody, I guess, making top dollar as a superintendent doing this and that. Um, what I didn't expect and what I didn't know is, yes, I was a superintendent. I ran everything off of this phone for, 20 something years, emails and all that stuff. I never was familiar with computers. I never turned on a computer. I never sent an email out. I've never done any of that stuff. So when I came over here to the construction and owning my own company, I figured, all right, I gotta get on computers now. I got two-person team here. I got a project manager and I got me as an estimator, and I figure I can estimate and go and run a couple jobs at the same time to get everything up and going and kind of get some money on the books. But I didn't realize I didn't know how to work computers. I didn't know how to do programs and all that stuff. So I spent my first 2 weeks in this chair on the computer trying to learn how to send an email out and do all that stuff. After week 3, I sent out an $11 million bid. Thank God I didn't get it because I don't know if I was even whole on it. But I did get like a $2 or $3 million job directly after that, which gave us flush money to start playing around with and doing more projects. But I had to learn really hard, really quick. And that's the first time I really felt anxiety. I don't feel anxiety. I just don't. And that's the first time I really had some moments there
I was
on
gonna say, well,
what am I doing?
that's
Yeah.
throwing yourself in the deep end there, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I figured I know construction. I know a bunch of people. I know this. I know how to put everything together in the field. But then there's putting everything together in the office too. There's managing the paperwork, the emails, the taxes and all the paperwork and all the thing that has to come with all of this here. I didn't know. So I had to learn.
No, but look, and the great thing there is that, for people listening to this, that, the part of this is about trying to inspire the next generation of leaders, right? And it's, and I think it's fair to say that you kind of walked into this with a great experience of construction, but not one of leading and running a business. And you've obviously managed to do an exceptional job of kinding your feet and learning as you were building.
Right. Well, I'm not a very smart person, not a very educated person. I got a GED. I got out of school when I was 10th grade, and but this isn't the kind of stuff they teach you anyway. This is
Yeah.
not this is not what they teach you. Like I got a bunch of resumes from college people, graduated masters in this and that, construction management, and they want to come work. And those are people I won't hire. I just won't. I want you pushing a broom for years. I want you doing this and working your way up to the way I worked up. I think it's healthy that way. I think it gives you a great knowledge of what construction really is that way. And you know, that's
No,
that's the
that
way I
makes sense.
perform my people to come up.
Well, that makes sense because it's actually something that we tend to hear quite a lot, right, from clients, is that they want somebody coming off the tools, they want somebody coming from with a trade, and they prefer that background because ultimately, as with yourself, Chris, that you learnt the trade, you knew how it goes together before managing a project from a kind of helicopter perspective, right? And I take it you found that for your particular business that works much better in terms of kind of recruitment than bringing people through from an educated sort of college background.
Yeah.
Why is that, do you think?
It's just that people that get right out of college, number one, they're coming out with so much debt and they want so much money with no experience in the field. I want this much money. I want this many breaks. I want this. I want that. No, it doesn't work like that. If you work your way up from the bottom, you're going to be grateful for everything you have up there. Finally, when you make it up to the top. And you know what? To all the other construction companies out there, you need to hire from within. You need to promote from within. You need to work your people on the bottom, get them all the way up, and make sure that there is a little pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. You need to do that
Mm.
for the people. Yeah, it's just working out of college. I mean, I was so happy when our president uh, just recently said that they were trying to get rid of all this money from Harvard and move it over to trade schools. If we're giving $40 billion to Harvard, take it that way and give it to trade schools. It's going to be doing better there, especially here. We need more people in the trades. We need more educated people in trades. We need those people working because we're a lot of workers here.
Yeah, I mean it's a massive skills gap. I mean, the US has got a pretty significant problem, the same as in a lot of Western Europe as well, right? That there's a lot of skill shortage and labor shortages across various different trades because you've got a lot of the older guys that have kind of stepped into more management roles, and then you've got the whippersnappers that are all coming through and wanting to go into management roles, but
Yeah,
there's that skills gap in the middle of
it
people that have
is.
actually come through the trade and are actually kind of earned through experience rather than just being told theoretically how it all works.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I take it, is that
Over the
something?
next couple of years, it will tell exactly what that gap is going to look like.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And do you see that currently in the market? Is that something that when you're recruiting, what are the struggles that you're having when you're actually trying to recruit for people?
Well, like I said, it's mostly people that just want top pay for not knowing anything, and that's a big struggle. And that you want to give them benefit of doubt. And as a person that's been there, I want to give them the money that they want. But then when I see you're not up to that level of doing what we need done, you know, how hard is it to demote that, take it away, get rid of them? I don't know. I've went through a lot of people that say they can do one thing and just fall flat on their face. Um, I'm I just don't. I think from now on, if it's not working up through the ranks, which I got everybody in the place they need to be right now, and I hire somebody new, they have to have the experience that comes with it. They have to have all that stuff. I mean, I had to go through a headhunter for the last two people I got, and I don't like going through headhunters, but paying that
Saying
money
that
is
to a
absurd. I
headhunter.
know, but
Yeah,
paying that money to me is absurd.
yeah.
For that much. Because there are people out there, I just don't know how to grab them. And at the get go, I knew a whole lot of people, but I kind of exhausted what I knew already. So that led me having to go to the headhunters. And there's a lot of them out there hitting me up all the time on a daily basis. But right now, comfortable with what we got, comfortable with who we got, and the amount of work we got. We're straight. We're good there. But
Yeah, I mean, look, naturally, look, fight in the corner of good headhunters. I will say that, when you've got poor headhunters and recruitment consultants that aren't necessarily good at what they do with a network in the field, they can give off a really poor kind of experience to clients, and we've seen that a lot. Um, and I think it's something that we kind of work on a daily basis to ensure that it's not just a transactional relationship, right? It's not us coming just simply asking you for $20,000 and then sitting back and just disappearing into the mist. It's
yeah,
about building a relationship with you, ensuring that that we're there for the onboarding, we're holding hands with you, we're ensuring that that person's actually adding value to your business and creating a level of partnership, because any smart person worth their salt knows that it needs to be a reciprocal relationship in order for you to continue to make money, right? That's just how it works. And there's got to be seen value from the client side. So yeah, I mean, look, we're constantly working on that, and sadly, some recruiters don't give off the greatest of experiences. But as they say, if you break your leg, you go to a doctor. If you need high-end talent, you need to go to a headhunter. It's the way it works.
that's a headhunter. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
got.
it.
But no, I mean, a lot of the resumes I was seeing coming out of them, they're just trying to grab and take a snippet from my website or whatever, see what I do, and kind of put it together with this little half-ass resume over here, send it out, and then I take a look at the guy or girl, and I see, hey, why do you jump to a different company every year? you know, Automatically you got to go in the trash pile. There's certain things to look at like that.
Well,
So
I mean, and that's part of what I was saying. Look, I don't want to start digging out lots of other recruiters, but there's a lot of poor recruiters out there. That's just a fact, right? Like there is tradespeople. It's just part and parcel of the course. I think for us, my business is called Just Construction. We're specialists in construction. So the people that operate in the GC field are experts in the GC field. The only people they work with is GCs, and that even breaks down further into specialisms, hospitality, leisure, whether it's stadium, whatever it will be. They actually understand what it is that they're looking for, and they understand the people that they're talking to, because you get what you call a generalist recruiter, and I don't want to start saying any names, but some of the really big players, and all they're CV pushers, resume pushers. They just make sure that something lands on your desk that says it's a project manager and it says construction somewhere, but there's no real detail as to kind of what that's about, and I think a fundamental flaw in the process of construction is that people don't understand, certainly recruiters, they don't understand that they need to know the nitty gritties of the client. They need to know your cultural makeup, what makes somebody work in your business, and actually to provide you with somebody who actually does what you do. I think otherwise you're just going to be sifting through shit, really, to be fair, and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And then me asking you for $20,000 for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get told to piss off.
Right? Yeah.
Quite quickly.
Yeah.
Look, moving on to another question, Mike, is what's something that you've, a recent decision, whether it's, strategic or silly, that you're proud of?
Recent decision that I'm proud of. I don't know. I'm proud of. I'm awfully proud of a lot of my decisions. So,
No.
uh, recent decision I'm proud of.
Was there a hire that you made? Was there a
No,
particular job that
actually,
you got?
it was a cut that we made. I mean, during last year, we were struggling. Not a lot of stuff coming in. I have to pinpoint out a few people inside the company that weren't really getting it done. I'm like, listen, our overhead is right here. Our workload is right here. I need to match our overhead to the workload. So it was a hard cut that I had to make. I'm very glad I made it. I mean, I made it to not only save the company, but to make sure everybody else that remained here were able to provide for their families. I mean, that's one that I'm proud of that I made. I mean, it's a hard decision. It's one of
Yeah.
those hard decisions that I don't like to do. I hate doing it, but I'm proud of that I did it.
And fair play to you for being very honest about that, right? Because you could have made up some bullshit and some fluff there and just said, yeah, I'm on a project. But it's very, very honest of you to hear that, and it's great to hear that, because not for the person that lost their job, of course not. But the reality is that the business is difficult, and leaders need to make tough decisions, and not making a decision is a decision, right? And
Yeah.
if you're not making that decision, then the decision is that you're potentially going to be putting other people into a sticky spot and potentially driving your business into the ground. So, whilst it's a pretty shitty decision that you've had to make, sorry, it's a fundamental one. So, fair play to you for being honest about that.
Well,
So, look, I mean, you get a good feel with you from speaking to you, right? But what would you describe as your kind of leadership style in one word, and why would you describe it that way?
my leadership style is a little bit the opposite of using kid gloves. Whatever the complete polar opposite of that is, that'd be my leadership style. And I tell a lot of people right away when they come in here and work. I mean, whether you came from the architect side or whatever side, or a construction manager side or a project manager side, working for a property manager, you're over into the general contractor side now. This is the zoo. You're still in a zoo, but now you're in the cages with the lions and tigers. That's the kind of stuff we're in. So people hear that in the construction thing, the feelings, it's not a thing. They don't care about your feelings. It is all about this and that, dollars and cents on it. And I tell people, they come in here in the interview, I'm like, listen, if you're looking for a pat on the back every time you do something, it's just not going to happen from here. It's not going to happen from here. You have a job and you're expected to go do the job. And if you get that job done, congratulations, you did your job. You did exactly what you're paid to do. Yeah. Yes, we treat our people very well with little excursions, outings, elaborate Christmas parties. Spend all kinds of money just to make everybody happy on their things like that. But you're expected to do a job. You won't get pat on the backs, but if you screw up, you're going to hear from you. So that's
So
that's how.
you're a straight shooter.
Yeah, I mean, there's no beating around the bush. When there's no interpreting wrong what I tell you when I tell you, there's none of that. So if it
Do you
gets
know what?
misinterpreted,
I
it's not.
like that, right? I like that because I'm a very honest person. You know, my wife says to me sometimes, probably a little bit too honest, but I'm one of those people. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I think ultimately, if you, if I'm pissed off, you're going to know about it because ultimately, there's no point in sugarcoating it. We might as well just say it how it is. Let's
Yeah,
get, let's get that dealt with and done, so we can move past it, shake hands, and get on with it.
absolutely, absolutely.
So
But
looking ahead about in the construction industry, what opportunities or trends do you see kind of shaping it over the next decade?
well, I do see the people coming back to the offices. So there may be a shift or more opening for the high-rise interior finish out again, because I know how lucrative and how good that can be, and it is, you know, it is a pain in the butt to do, but it can. There's so much of it out there when people get back to the office, and it gets back to that boom that we're gonna be seeing shortly. I'm sure I see that happening. That's number one. Number two, we are still building tilt walls and industrial warehouses and stuff up all over the place. The little area of Dallas that I knew growing up here is now expanded so far. I don't know what it's like there, but really we still have to travel sometimes an hour, hour and a half to get to a job site. And that's considered still just on the outskirts of town. Texas is really, really big and spread out like that. And we try not to do much more outside of that because you can only handle so many projects at that rate. But I see the industrial stuff going up. I see the people coming back here, stuff that we have nothing to do with, like roadway construction and building bridges and stuff. Our infrastructure is getting blown up and huge here. It's just doing that because we're accommodating all these new people that are coming in that want the Texas life.
I was going to say that. I mean, that's probably been one of the biggest drivers, right? Look, we recruit heavily in Texas across the GC space, whether it's the MEP space, all the subcontract markets as well. And a lot of the people that we move, we relocate from New York, from California. Look, naturally, there's tax burdens and whatnot that are better in Texas than they are, but it is that freedom of lifestyle, right? That whole Texas freedom that you see. Um, Austin's obviously a slightly different animal, right? It's almost like it's a blue city in a red state type of situation, and it's a little bit all over the place. So, but we see a lot of people moving to Austin. We're actually in the process of setting up our office in Austin because it's the cool place to be, right? The cool kids and stuff. So,
Yeah, it's
it's
definitely the blueberry and the tomato soup for sure.
love that from a proper Texan there. No holding back there. No holding back on that at all. What's the one thing that you would say? I guess. Look, look, if you could change something specifically right now, right, in the industry that something the industry should stop doing, that's going to keep it really competitive and sustainable. What would you suggest that would be?
Well, what I wish it would be is fair bidding processes on everything. There are a lot of people out there that we work with and work for that have favorites. No matter how many times and how good you come in with the numbers and how many times you bid for them, they're always going to give it to somebody else. I don't know what the reason is I have no idea. Did they just do so much better? I have no idea, but I don't think there's a very fair bidding process here. I think there's underlying issues somehow, somewhere, but I don't think everybody gets their fair shake at it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're obviously in the trenches, so to speak, so you see that, and I've heard that from other clients previously that they bid for specific work, but it always seems that pre-existing relationships kind of reshape that, and you're almost at a loose end regardless, and you're almost wasting your time as such bidding on these projects and
And it
estimating.
is.
You're just not going to get anything from it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
do you decide to cut that loose and move on and stop wasting your times and efforts? So
It's a struggle, isn't it? Because it's like, have you seen those pictures where you got somebody drilling for oil or hitting for diamonds, and they give up at that last moment. Whereas if they'd kept going, they would have got the diamonds out. I don't know if you've seen those kind of pictures,
Yeah.
but it's that same analogy, right? You've got to keep persisting, because you just never know when it's that time that the other contractor, the GC, ballsed up the project, that you're ready to go, and it's that moment that you walk away that you don't get the job.
And that's a fact. There's no general contractor here that's not going to fall flat on their face or let somebody down into such a way that those people won't use it again. There's no contractor who does that. Uh, I'm sure we've done it as well, but it's how you try to pick yourself up and apologize for the mistakes and pay for it and move on, and you hope everybody recognizes that and will keep using you. But we're just one of those people that, when we do things and we miss things on bids or we do whatever, rather than trying to change order a client or do something like that just to make up that couple $1,000, I'm just going to eat it. I'm just one of those people that are just going to eat it to save the client, because I only work for a few clients. I only have a small team, work for a few clients. If one, two, three of them goes away, then we're not doing very good. Then we got to go out and find new clients, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to develop that kind of relationship either, or you just don't want to develop that reputation
Yeah.
on
No,
things. So I'd rather just eat it, and not the type of person that want to change order a job. And that's exactly how I need to train some of the new folks that come in, because there are some people that will come in as project managers or here or there, and we got to change order this, or we didn't have that in the bid, or that's going to be a change order, that's going to be a change order. I'm like, wait, get that word out of your vocabulary. I don't even want to hear it. These people don't want to hear anything like that. All that stuff needs to come back to me and let me find out a way around it, and talk to them about it and say, hey, we're going to either take care of this, or do you want to split this, or do whatever. But nobody just wants to be change ordered jet, legitimate or not. So
that makes sense. Look, I mean, look, construction's naturally, it's fast moving, it's high pace, high pressure. What advice would you give or have for leaders trying to maintain both quality and culture?
sorry, can you repeat that?
So obviously, construction's fast paced and it's high pressured and whatnot, right? So leaders are always kind of struggling with their time and whatnot. So what advice would you give to leaders, kind of maybe if they're starting out their business or whatnot, to try to maintain both quality of work but culture in the business?
It's the time. You're gonna have to put the time in. When you're starting out and doing the stuff, there's no you're going to have to be the first one in and the last one to leave. You're going to have to take a look at everything. You're going to have to answer the phones on off hours for the clients and doing all that stuff. You're going to have to go above and beyond. There's no set work time for you. You will probably be the lowest paid for a long time, being the key person, this and that. And you have to legitimately find the staff that is going to complement you the best. You're going to have to legitimately find those people that know what they're doing and can handle all the problems and stuff that come up. And that just takes a lot of time. Until then, you're that person. You're going to have to make all the sacrifices. You're going to have to make all the hard decisions. So my advice to anybody, just be prepared. When you go into something like this, you're going to have to be that person. And if you're just not that strong-willed person, or you let people steamroll right over the top of you, they will do it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I think that's, like you say, I think there are some hard yards. I remember previous, years back when I started my business, it's, like you rightfully say, you tend to be the lowest paid in the business for a long time. You're the one that's sleepless nights. You're taking on all the risk, but rightfully it takes time to build the people around you, kiss a number of frogs, as they say, that, and it just takes time to find that balance within the business. So,
Yeah.
great advice.
You have to fall on your sword an awful lot here. When you're working for somebody else and whatever superintendent and something goes wrong and this and that, fuck off. Don't deal with it anymore. You can't do that anymore. You're like, you're sorry, I was wrong. You're right. We'll fix it. And that's what it turned into now. Now it's falling on your sword for everything. Now there's,
You just got to hope you're a cat with 9 lives, right? Look, what sort of legacy, I guess, that you want to leave behind at CCI and beyond? What is there a sort of legacy that you would like to leave?
Yeah, I mean, right now, being in the industry for so long, I drive around town and I can point at any direction in a building. I built that, I built that, I built this. And that's good enough for me. I mean, sooner or later, my son and everybody, they'll be taking over the company, doing the stuff, and they'll be doing the same stuff. They'll be pointing at the buildings and driving by things, and we built this and we built that and we built that. And it's already happening because um my son and his friend, they work for me here, and they've been there pushing brooms all the way up to the roles they're in now, and they're already to that point. We're already taking a look at things and saying, "I did that, I built that, I had a hand in that. You know, we managed all that," and that's good enough for me. We built these things, and these things are going to stay. You know, there could be a tornado, and there's plenty of tornadoes down here, but whatever we built, that some bitch is going to be standing still.
No, I love that. I mean, and I think that's the beauty with construction, right? Is that you get that finished article when you look at it, and you get, you know, I'm just going to sound ridiculous, right? To a man that's in construction as long as you've been, you know. My dad owns a construction company. I've always been in and around doing trades, and not a qualified tradesperson, but you know, I stuck some new paneling up on my wall and repainting the bedroom and read that. And I stood there afterwards, and my wife was like, "Wow, looks great," you know, with all the new wardrobes I put in and everything else. And you sit there and look. If she went and looked closely, she's going to see that I've got decorators cork all over the place and painted stuff and hid stuff around, right? But the reality is, it's that proud moment where you stand there and you look back and you think, you know, from a man, I built this. So I can imagine that that's probably tenfold when you're standing looking at a building, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Sometimes, I mean, we've done some projects here with this company as me as at the helm driving this thing. We've done some projects that I'm pretty proud of. I mean, I would have loved to have been the superintendent on the project because you're day to day doing all that stuff, and you're actually you get you get that you just get that
that
you feel
pride,
better. Yeah,
that
you
pride, right? It's that
yeah,
pride
that's
where
right
you're like,
about it. I mean, yes, I went out and took a look at it. I bid it. I put it all together. I got the plans. I read everything, put all the subs together, made it a project, gave it to this guy to run. So I had my little part in it, but yeah, he's still got that pride of, hey, I really coordinated all this. I was the mastermind of putting it all together. And so those are always fun times, but we've done some pretty impressive projects here.
what would be the number one? If you said like, if I said to you, what was the one project that you're most proud of? What would that be and why?
I guess it would be a project called Tactical Fleet that we've done, and it's a really high-end automobile company that sells real high-end cars, real expensive stuff. But they first came to me when I was about a year and a half into this company, and it was two guys that didn't have much money. They both sold cars at different dealerships and this and that. They decided they're going to start their own company. They want to name it Tactical Fleet. They went and rented a little 30,000 square foot warehouse office space, a sublease from another company called Misfits Motorcycles moving out. I go in there and take a look at it, and it's a wreck. The office is nasty. It's red, painted black ceiling, and everything was bad. They're like, okay, this is kind of what we want to do. So I sat there with them, and normally general contractors won't do this. Normally, hey, I come in there, I want to see a set of plans, I want to see this and that, and we'll bid off the plans and go. They're like, well, we kind of want this, a couple offices in here, this and that. I was like, all right. So I started drawing everything up on a piece of paper, and I drew them a plan, as I still have, on a piece of paper. And I was like, is this kind of what you want? They're like, yeah, that'll work. So the next day, I arranged all the subcontractors. I got them out there, had them walking the job. I was pointing and shooting at exactly what I want done and how I want done. Give me your bid in 3 days. And these guys were so impressed. They're like, we're going to move with you for sure. But we want to talk the numbers. We only have this much money. I was like, okay, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. And started moving people in there, started getting work done. And they're like, all right. In the meantime, while you're working, can we set up our table in the back warehouse and start working? I was like, yeah. They set up a little card table, put a little laptop on it, little fax machine, and they started pushing tin. They started getting cars out the door. I remember when I was in the middle of construction, them rolling off one of the trucks, a 000001 Woody. I don't know if you remember those cars, but the wood panels all over it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
This was the first one ever made.
Wow.
They rolled it off in there, put it in the back warehouse. I got stuff going around it. I'm scared as hell. This car is a couple $1 million.
It's gonna say.
And they sold it within like 2 days. Then they
Wow.
brought in a couple Ferraris and some Lamborghinis and some Bentleys. And then the Dallas Cowboys and Mavericks, they all started coming over buying cars. And then that $200,000 budget that they had immediately increased to $800,000 to build their space. So I got to build it a little better. I'm like, well, you guys are going to run out of room. So by the time I'm done building their space and polishing their floors, they got 40 or 50 cars in there now. And they're moving along and doing stuff. I'm like, you guys are about to run out of space. It wasn't more than 2 years later after I finished that, they called me up and said, we're buying 100,000 square foot building. We want you to build it. So I was like, okay. So I went over there and built just an obscene, awesome place for them. You know, they spared no expense on this stuff. They opened up one in Beverly Hills. They opened up one in Georgia. They opened up one someplace else, and they just started blowing up all over the place. And they're like, we want you, you got to build this for us. So I did. And that was one of the best moments I've had working here so far.
That's amazing. I think because, there's so many lessons in that, is that, a bit of humility, a bit of, confidence in your own ability, a good bit of leadership, a bit of client management there. They've got a small budget. You're hoping to make, you're making somebody's dream come true, right? You're dream making basically. And it's helping people bring that vision to life, what they see for their business. And, look, naturally that's the right move, is that they gave you the next job as they built it bigger.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Superb. I genuinely want to see what that car looks like. In fact, I'd love to see what your face looked like as somebody was moving a bit of furniture or something near that car. I bet you were shooting a brick, right?
It's terrible. We're working over the top of the cars, hanging pinweld insulation, light fixtures, doing all that stuff. And these guys are stacking millions upon millions of dollars of cars underneath us at the same time, just so they can afford everything.
But were you there with a couple of bits of material ready to catch some of the excess?
Yeah. No, that gives you a pretty good stress level. It's like, man,
yeah,
I prefer you guys not do this, but I understand.
I mean, I've heard about live environments, right? That's crazy. People working in hospitals or in schools and stuff when people are in there. But with a couple of $1 million car beneath you, I think I would be shitting myself, to be fair.
Yeah. It's amazing the way these people are buying these cars. And I seen a footballer, I'm not going to name the name, from Dallas Cowboys. He came in, bought a Bentley, $700,000. Drove it off. 3 months later, he came back and he traded it in, and they gave him like $100 and something thousand for it. And then he bought a newer one for close to $1 million. And then they took that Bentley that they paid him $100,000 for, just since it was his Bentley and was owned by that guy, and sold it again for like 600 and stuff. I don't know. People, when they're buying those kind of cars, we're playing in a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, when you got that kind of money, it's a water off a duck's back, as they say. That's next level. So a couple of questions I always have in closing. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing in construction overnight that would have the biggest impact, what would it be?
Give me a second on that. I'm not good with these questions. If I had a magic wand, I could change anything in construction that would have the biggest impact. I guess it would be filling in that trade gap like we talked about earlier. I want more qualified people doing what we do, especially here. Here, like I said, we got so much building and stuff going on. I have cleaned up and fixed up so many jobs behind people that have done it wrong. And now you have a client that is paying for something twice. And I consider that my money sometimes, If that was my money I was having to spend to do that twice, I'd be very upset because there's a lot of people that aren't qualified to do what they're doing. And if I had a magic wand, I'd make sure everybody that's doing what we do are qualified. In Texas, I don't think you need a license to be a general contractor, but in Florida and places like that, I know you do.
Hmm.
Maybe that's something we need. Maybe that's something that you need to really learn and know how to do. Maybe there needs to be some kind of an
Workshop.
oversee or management of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes complete sense, and I think you know you are right. I think it's funny, isn't it? Because there's elements of being free as such and being able to kind of build enterprise, but there's also an element of making sure that you do it with, you know, in the right way.
But I get it. I mean, these people want to pay the lowest dollar they possibly can, and they're going to go find whoever they can to give them that lowest price. And at the 90% of the time, it's going to end up biting you.
It's
And
funny. 'Cause
I
I always, sorry,
so
go on, Chris. You go, you go.
no, I mean that's the way it is, and that's the way everybody's driven. Why am I going to pay 300,000 when I could pay 150 to somebody?
And that's the problem, isn't it? You know, my mum always said to me when I was a kid, "Buy cheap, buy twice," and it's true, right? It is true. It's just the way it is. I think if you can, there's certain differences. There's a fine line between a bargain and buying something shit.
Right.
I think, and it's like there's a great if you can negotiate a good price for a very good product or a very good service, but you know, 9 times out of 10, you pay for what you get.
Yeah.
You know, and
I just wish that everybody could know. I just wish that everybody could know me on a personal level and know whatever kind of job that I'm bidding for them, whether you think it's expensive or not expensive, that we're going to go to the ends of the earth to make it right for you, no matter how many problems arise during the project. I mean, there's not many GCs out there that will do that. I will, always had, but,
yeah,
but
well, that's
you
good.
know,
That's good because it just goes to show the level of, you know, look, pride that you have as a GC, but also the passion that you got for the industry to make sure that it, you know, it's done right because it is essential. Like you say, you know, you're spending somebody else's money, so to speak, and you are responsible for that, right? And I think, you know, like you said with the car guys, that you're helping to bring something to life at the end of the day. And like you say, the pride that you go past with your son or you know family, I built that, I built that. You know, there is that pride in it, and I think that it's something we say in our own business. My business partner and I were always saying the same. He's like, have some pride in what you're delivering, right? Because that's what it's all about. You know, you can only have that from yourself. Like I can't instill pride into you in what you do. That's something you need to have for yourself.
yeah, you don't want to treat it as a job. If you're treating it as a job, you probably need to be doing something else.
Yeah,
If
agreed.
you're treating this as, hey, this is what I do for a living, and I'm going to do it the very best. I'm going to do it better than everybody else. If you can go in with that mindset and do that, the jobs and the money, it'll come. They'll definitely come. But you got to be all in.
No, agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's, you know, it's the same sort of scenario in our industry that there's lots of people that kind of do shoddy jobs that gives the rest of us a poor reputation, right? And it's frustrating. It is frustrating for sure. Look, in closing, I'll ask you this: what would you tell your younger self that's just getting into the game? If you could give yourself one piece of advice that you think would benefit you the most, something that you maybe now know that you didn't know then, what would it be?
Most everybody that you come into contact with in this industry is looking out for themselves. That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. Look, I love that. Simple, sweet, but truthful and on point.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a hard truth. And you want to believe in the best of, hey, everybody's doing everything for the best of the company or the best of this or the best of that. But in fact, it's what affects them the most. And is it wrong? I don't know. But that's,
just
I
the
don't
way
know.
it is.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, Chris, look, it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure speaking to you. And we really, really appreciate your time coming on the show. I think it's been a very honest and certainly a very very good reflection of you as a character. So, look, hopefully our paths cross one day. That would be great. But if not, wish you the best, and thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite.
Chris, take care. We'll see you soon.
Love to you too. Thanks.
Cheers.